So Toy Story for me is simply one of the greatest animation movies of all time, and in terms of Pixar movies, this is a perfect fucking template for the future, which they're clearly not using because they keep fucking making sequels and prequels and spin-offs with fucking things like Lightyear, let's be honest.
You're mocking me, aren't you?
However, going back onto this particular film, I think it was great how the idea that toys, as when you're a kid, could actually be running around when you're not there is a bit fucking bizarre and a bit fucking bonkers, not gonna lie. I think that idea though worked and was a huge success because I can think, right, that me as a kid would believe that. I can't remember what I used to think, but I think that's possible. If you're a kid believing that your toys sat there running around when you're not there is pretty bonkers and pretty weird, but you could get behind it. And that's the enjoyable part for kids right there. That's the enjoyment right there. But the thing that Disney were clever by, they gave toys feelings and emotions and stuff, which was like, that was so fucking out there. I want to know who came up with Toy Story Me, because they must have been on some fancy fucking drugs, because they made it so that Woody tried to kill Buzz by chucking him out of a window. That is pretty brutal. And I mean, for a kids movie and for a kids franchise, there's some fucking hairy, dark moments in this particular film franchise, as we see Woody getting his voice box ripped out in Toy Story 4, which is brutal. In all seriousness though, these sorts of things happen as a kid. You go through phases. You go through phases where 1 minute you could be into cowboys, the next minute you could be into space rangers and spacemen and astronauts and space and all that shit. And I think it's cool how this makes a cool story out of this particular moment in a kid's life where he's trying to find out what things he's into. For me as a kid, it was like maybe you went through, playing with your fucking toy trains to going into playing with your wrestling figures and stuff like that. That transition happened for me. But for other kids, that it might have been something completely different. And I think it was going through that phases of you move away from certain toys onto others, and it did it in such a great fashion, great storytelling, and a great vibe of how a young kid around Andy's age would transition into going from something completely different into another theme, and they go through phases as kids. And I think that was fantastic, and exploiting that in a kid's film so that they could see that they jump from phase to phase, which is brilliant. And also the greatest thing about the Toy Story franchise is the revolutionary friendship between Buzz and Woody, in which probably inspired several other franchises like Shrek, Ice Age and Monsters Inc., with those two main best friend characters taking over.
Stubborn jackass! Smelly ogre!
And I think they did it in such an enjoyable fashion because they were funny together. They got on together, Buzz and Woody, but not straight away. They had to go through the jealousy part of things, and they had to go through Woody trying to kill Buzz out of the window, which we mentioned earlier. You go through them fighting in a petrol station. We go through the fact that they had to escape Sid's madhouse of fucking horrors. We go through all that for them to become best friends and to become best pals because they worked together and they knew, right, okay, I was jealous of what you were doing, but can't we just work together? Can't we play together and play nicely together and get on? And when they found that new gear, they got on to a fucking T. And I think that was brilliant, because that helped him to escape Sid's house, that helped them to go back to Andy, and that helped to make one great friendship, which would be copied in many franchises like we mentioned. And before we get onto the ending, it is worth mentioning how good was Randy Newman's fucking soundtrack. Imagine, right, if you deleted all the soundtrack from the film, how different would it look when the transition from Woody's bed sheets and all the cowboy bed sheets to go into the alien bed sheets and the Space Rangers bed sheets without strange things playing over the background? That just doesn't sit right with me. He legit transformed this movie from being like you know what, it's a good film, don't get me wrong, to being, oh my god, this is a fucking legendary film. This is fucking up there with one of the greatest animation movies of all time. Just a soundtrack changed that from being there to being up there. It just works massively well with the characters and what they're going through in their times. And yeah, I can't explain enough the Randy Newman soundtrack for Toy Story was probably one of the best things about the franchise. I think the ending of Buzz and Woody eventually going back to Andy by escaping Sid's madhouse and then using the rocket that was attached to Buzz to help fly them over the moving van and into Andy's car was a great ending for the film. And then they lived happily ever after with the rest of the toys until we get to later on in the franchise where they practically destroy Woody. But we've already mentioned that, and yeah, let's not talk about that again. Before we jump back into this video, guys, please do us a massive favour and smash that subscribe button, because you do not want to miss a thing this week, next week, and the week after, because we've got tons and tons of content planned for you guys, and you can do us a massive favour by smashing that subscribe button, joining the community, getting updates to all the latest videos from the YouTube shorts to the actual videos. It is well worth it, completely free, and you will not regret it. So to summarise Toy Story then, for me, this is easily a 9.2 out of 10 and a legendary film. Let us know your thoughts down those comments down below. Is it good, bad, terrible, amazing? Let us know all that jazz down those comments down below. And if you haven't yet seen our review on Incredibles 2, check that out right now.